Hello, my lovely friends. My name is Ava, and today I have some historical romance recommendations. I love historical romances. It's the 10th today of January, and I've already read 4 this year. So I love historicals. And so these are some of my favorites. I think I do have another 1 or 2 rec videos. I'll link those down below if you want more recommendations. I think I specifically also have historical romances with disability representation video if you want historicals with disability rep specifically, so that will be linked down below for y'all to check out. But here are 10 books that are historicals that I really enjoyed, and sometimes I did clump one space as a whole series, so we'll get into that. First, I have the Marriage of Convenience series by Anne Gracie. The first book that I read from Anne Gracie is The Autumn Bride, but my Libby didn't have any of the other books in the series. I just recently got Hoopla, so now I'm reading the rest because I have those books. But I wanted to tide myself over because I loved The Autumn Bride so much. So I found this other series by Anne Gracie, the Marriage of Convenience series, and I marathoned all 4 of those books. If you love historical romance series about siblings, look no further. So book number 1, Marry in Haste. There are 4 books in the series. The first book is about our hero, who is the spare heir to his, I don't know if it's a viscount or an earldom, but it's a title of some sort, okay? He just inherited it because his older brother, his eldest brother, passed away, and his older brother actually also had guardianship of their 2 younger sisters who are in their teens. Like, they're supposed to be out in society right now. Anyway, he gets the title, gets the estate, has to take over as like guardians for them, and finds out that they are so rambunctious girls. Like, they're sneaking out of the house, they're doing stuff, like they're not acting the way ladies should. So he hires governess of sorts, because they're too old to have a governess, but like a lady's companion to teach them things. And he finds out that there's only like one woman that these girls will listen to, and it's one of the teachers at their sorry, Finn's barking at their preparatory school. So he asks this woman to marry him and to be their mother in all intensive purposes. Oh, I also forgot to mention in book number 1, Marry in Haste, the hero also gets guardianship of the brother that died, his bastard child, who is the heroine for the last book. So all 3 of these young girls are staying with the hero and his now new wife in Marry in Haste, okay? And then the second one, Marry in Scandal, is about a girl who reminds me kind of Penelope Bridgerton. She gets overlooked a lot. She thinks like no man is going to want her. But at the beginning of Marry in Scandal, she actually gets kidnapped by a guy who wants her fortune and is going to force her to marry him, like running off to Gretna Green to marry him so he can have the fortune that she's inheriting. But along the way, the hero from book number 1's best friend is driving in his carriage nearby and actually sees her run away and saves her life. But because they're alone in this carriage, there's scandal and he has to marry her, okay? Each book is about like a marriage of convenience, okay? Then book number 3 is Marry in Secret. And so one of those girls about to marry a duke, like she's literally about to say I do at the altar. But it's not for like love purposes, it's for you're marrying a duke, right? When someone says, speak now or forever hold your peace, here comes a dirty, rugged, big man. And it's like, hey, you can't marry her, she's already married. And no one knew this woman was married before. Like, she got married when she was like a very young teenager to what she assumed the love of her life was, and she thought he was dead. So marrying in secret, they got married in secret. And by the way, all these summaries, like that's the beginning of the book, and it just keeps on going. So, and the last one, Marry in Scarlet, is actually about the duke that got jilted in book number 3, and the one girl that was the brother's bastard daughter, right? She grew up essentially like a boy haircut, didn't wear dresses, only wore trousers, ran across the estate, did not act like a lady. So she is not wanting to marry. She just wants to get her fortune when she's turn a specific age and then go to a farm and just stay there for the rest of her life. So she's in shock when this duke and her have to get married for a specific reason. So that series is so stinking fun. I also started the next books in the Autumn Bride series. I just finished book number 2 and I can't wait to finish those because those are so good also. And the Autumn Bride characters make little cameos in this series, which is so cool. Like in the Autumn Bride books, one of the characters becomes a dressmaker. Like one of them gets their wedding dress at this dressmaker. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I know her. One of my favorite books from all the way back in 2023 was Lady Ruthless by Scarlett Scott. This one was so good. I think you can listen to this on Audible Plus. So if you have an Audible subscription, you can listen to this audiobook for free, I'm pretty sure. If not, then it's a different Scarlett Scott book. I love how Scarlett Scott writes her books because she just thrusts you into a scene, into a problem right on page number 1. So at the beginning of this book, our heroine is getting kidnapped by our hero. Like he's showing her into a carriage and he's kidnapping her. That is because the hero finds out that this woman has been writing these scandalous letters that are presumably written by him. Like it sounds like they're written by him about these like scandalous, awful things that he's done. So he's had no marriage prospects. He needs to get married for specific reasons. He needs an heir, and no women will give him the time of day because they believe that he is writing these scandalous like articles in the paper, right? But she's actually doing it. He ends up finding out that it's this woman, and she has her reasons for why she's making this guy look bad. And so he has kidnapped her and is gonna chain her up in this room in his estate, like in the country, and is like, hey, you're not leaving here because no one's gonna find you. No, you're not leaving here until you agree to be my wife because no one else will. So I freaking love this book so much. It's so good. I have a Lisa Kleypas book to recommend. This is Dreaming of You, and I know like everyone and their mother loves this book that has read historicals. I actually read it for the first time in 2024, and this one is all about the very coveted Derek Craven. He runs this men's like gambling den, and at the beginning of this book he's like in an alley literally about to die, and this woman just walking by the alley ends up accidentally saving his life, kind of. And that's our heroine, and she's this very bookish woman. She's a writer, and she has this pen name that is very popular. She asked Derek Craven like, hey, can you let me into your gaming club because I want to write a book that takes place in one, but I don't know what one looks like, what it's like. Can I do some research? And at first he's like, no, you're a woman, you can't do that. But I mean, she did save his life. So anyway, that's like the bare bones of how this book starts. But everyone loves Derek Craven for a reason. I of course have to mention this series. This is the Dutchess series by Tessa Dare. If you have not read historical romances yet, I feel like this is a great gateway into the subgenre. So there are 3 books out in the series. Who knows if we'll ever get the 4th. It's been like on hold indefinitely, and I've been waiting for it for years. Because when did the Wallflower Wager come out? This came out in 2019. We've been waiting like 5 years for 6 years for The Bride Bet. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why it's not published, but everyone's dying for it. But this one starts out with the Dutchess deal. Oh, by the way, each book in the series, there's supposed to be a 4th. There's 4 best friends, and each book is about their romance. So number 1, our heroine is a dressmaker, and she has not been paid for the wedding dress that someone commissioned by her. She spent so much money like commissioning this beautiful lace like beaded wedding gown, and she spent so much of her own money, but she was gonna use the money that was gonna be paid to her to pay it off, right? And no one's paid her, and it's because the wedding didn't happen. It was to this duke, okay, and he went off to war and came back, and his fiance took one look at him and his scarred face after battle and was like, I'm not marrying you, and leaves him. Like, how awful is that? But the heroine still needs to get paid. She like made this dress, she still needs to get paid. So she marched herself up to his doorstep wearing the dress because like he can't refuse her if she's wearing this freaking dress. And he takes one look at her and is like, hey, how about I marry you instead? Because the main reason why he needed a wife was to get an heir. And so yeah, there's a bunch of rules they're putting in place for this wedding, for this marriage between them. So yeah, it's a good read. It's a grumpy sunshine. Then book number 2 is about our next girlfriend, and she becomes the governess to our hero. He has 2 wards that he is taking care of, these little girls, and they're so cute. They are so funny. I freaking love them. And yeah, it's a governess romance. I love governess romances. These are basically nanny romances, just historical time. And then the last one is the Wallflower Wager. This one, our heroine basically lives in her family's like house all by herself. She has taken in a bunch of animals to nurse back to health, to take care of, to take in when no one else will want them, abandoned animals. And our hero has purchased the house next door to hers to fix it up and sell it for a higher profit. And he's like, oh my gosh, people are definitely going to want to live next to our heroine because she's like a titled lady or whatever. But then he realizes that her house is full of animals, makes all these weird sounds at night, like will not be quiet. This house is constant chaos. And he's like, no one's gonna want to live here. So these two actually make a deal to where like she'll get rid of these animals if the hero helps her find good homes for all of them. And I love historicals with like animals and like pets put in there. I think Lisa Kleypas wrote Love in the Afternoon. That one was good too, where it kind of like it's about a bunch of pets finding their homes. So this one was really cute. I have The Making of a Highlander by Elisa Braden. This one is actually, believe it or not, like a loosely inspired Brave retelling, but obviously the heroine has a hero there because in Brave she's like all solo, right? There's kind of like a paranormally mystical aspect in here. The heroine's best friend is a little boy who's a ghost, and he's kind of disappeared, and she went to like a witch, and the witch told her like, hey, you can get your ghost back if you marry a titled English gentleman. And she's like, crap, I know nothing about that. She is a Highland Scottish lass, like is not proper whatsoever. So she finds one of her neighbors who just moved into the Highlands who is a titled English lord, and it's like, hey, can you teach me like lady lessons, and in return like I'll help you to win the Highland games, because if you win the Highland games, like people in the area will respect you, because that's what he's having trouble with. And so these two get in like kind of like these lesson game things, and it's hot, it's fun. I really like this one. She's definitely like Merida in a lot of ways. And there are other books in this series as well, about characters we meet as like side characters in here. They're on the shelf there. I haven't read book number 4 yet. I need to. Next I have Accidentally Compromising the Duke by Stacey Reed. This book starts out with both characters being at a house party. There's this big house party. If you don't know, a house party is like you going to like a very rich person in this like big group of friends, going to their big estate house, and them all staying there for like multiple weeks. So it's kind of like a long slumber party for rich people, okay? The heroine goes into this specific room because she thinks that her best guy friend is going to be in there. She's going to ruin herself with him because she doesn't want to marry this old guy her dad has set her up with. So she's like, I hope my best friend can like ruin me. So she goes into this room, but she was told the wrong room, and she goes into this room with this like scandalous duke who supposedly killed his wife. Like those are the rumors, okay? People catch them in the room together even though like nothing happened, and she has to marry him because she got ruined. And he finds this actually like a perfect solution because he was being a mother to his 2 girls, and he finds this to be like, great, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Now I have a wife. And so he doesn't really feel anything for her at first, but once he gets to know her, man, does he fall hard. I have a Lorraine Heath. I read my first Lorraine Heath last year, and I think I read like 3 of them last year. I really like her books, but the one I'm going to be recommending today is Falling into Bed with a Duke. Here is the beautiful step back. I forgot to show off the step backs for some of those, but so pretty. I'm obsessed with her dress. Like I want to steal it. The heroine Minerva, she has had 6 seasons, okay, and that like puts you on the shelf as a spinster. And she's like, you know what, I want to at least experience pleasure. So she goes to this club where women and men of society can seek pleasure in each other, like anonymously, like everyone wears masks. And from the moment she walks into this room with her mask on, the hero is so entranced by her. He's a duke. They have this kind of like affair together in this club, and I think they figure out that the other person is who they are like in real life pretty soon. Wait, no, the heroine knows who he is the whole time. The hero is trying to figure out who the heroine is. So yeah, this one's really fun. The hero also loves like taking kind of like erotic photographs also, so that was always fun. I have another series. This is the McCabe trilogy by Maya Banks. If you like Highlander romances, no one writes Highlander romances like Maya Banks. I'm so sad. I don't think we're ever going to be getting any more of them, but they're so good. Like I made these last for as long as possible, and her other Highlander series. I love Highlander romances, so these are good. I do prefer her other series to this one. I think I mentioned it in a previous rec video, but these are still good as well. So you start out with In Bed with the Highlander, which is not personally my favorite, just because there is a little bit of like dubious consent for their first time together, just because the heroine is so inexperienced and the hero doesn't know that. So please be aware of that before going in, but I feel like it sorts itself out by the end. The heroine in this one is the person who's going to inherit this huge plot of land in Scotland. And so she is a very coveted woman. and she's been kidnapped by this man who wants to marry her and force her to be his wife so he can get this land and this title. So she's kidnapped by him, and they're traveling through the moors together. Like, she's basically bound and gagged. And this little boy, they end up taking this little boy who's like running through the fields and kidnaps him as well. And her and the little boy become close friends, and the little boy tells her, like, hey, if we get to this area of Scotland, like, that is my dad's land and he will save us. I'll make sure he saves your life. And she does just that. She ends up escaping with this little boy, and it's her romance with his dad. Book number 2 is Seduction of a Highland Lass. Oh, I also wanted to mention, in this book, he's actually already like set to marry and kind of like engaged to marry this woman he never met before. It's like a rivaling clan's daughter to form an alliance, right? And so since he's marrying the girl from this book instead, the task for marrying the rivaling clan's daughter gets passed on to this hero. And so he's literally on the way to that clan, like traveling there with his men to meet her for the first time when they get raided and they get attacked, and he passes out on his horse. Like, he's still sitting on his horse. His horse ends up at this cottage in the middle of nowhere, and that's where our heroine Keely lives. She is a healer, but she's also an outcast from her clan, and so she nurses him back to health, and they actually fall in love in this cabin together. But he's set to marry, like, he promised to marry this other woman he's never met before. So there you go. And then this one is about the heroine that all these guys have passed off, right? The daughter to the rivaling clan, the last brother here in the McCabe family is set to marry her, and he doesn't know what to do with her because she is such a headstrong woman. She was raised by a Highland clan chief. Like, she's very independent, fights with men, brawls with them. He's like, this is not what a woman should be doing. And so he does not know what to do with his wife. So yeah, this one was great. I really enjoyed these books. So if you want Highlander romances, definitely pick these up. I have an Elizabeth Hoyt book. This is The Raven Prince. The heroine's mother, I believe, is going through some health problems and she needs more money. So she ends up finding out that an earl is in need of a secretary. And normally women don't have these jobs. They don't. But she ends up worming her way into his business, into his life, and becomes his secretary so she can get more money for her mother. And it's basically the forbidden romance between this earl and his secretary. And lastly, I have a novella. This is Surrender to Sin by Nicola Davidson. The hero and his friends, each book in the series is about one of the guy friends. They own and run this sinful club, okay, together in this historical romance. And the heroine is a young widow, and her father wants her to marry another old man. It's a loveless marriage, right? And so she decides to actually get into an affair with Sin, and that's kind of what this little novella is about. It's great. These books are hot. Nicola Davidson knows how to write hot romances. Anyways, there you have it. Those are a bunch of historical romance recommendations for you. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if you plan to, and also leave your historical romance recs down below, please. I would love more recommendations, like always. If you don't feel like commenting anything else, you can leave me any clothing item emoji down below. But anyways, thank y'all so much for watching. I will see y'all soon in my next one. Bye, y'all.